Hello, and welcome to Inspire Tokyo. I'm Chris Galucci. The Inspire Tokyo podcast is brought to you by Kikokuhshijo Academy in Tokyo, Japan. On this show, we interview leading figures in science, the arts, education, business, and politics to help young bilingual students learn more about potential career paths for their future. Nowadays, nearly everyone has heard of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and the underlying technology behind it all called blockchain, but not everyone understands how it all works. Today on the show, my guest is Dave Gutteridge. Dave currently works full-time writing about cryptocurrency, covering all aspects of the market, including technology and market analysis. Dave has a way of talking about cryptocurrency that is easy to understand and, well, less cryptic. Is cryptocurrency a money to be used every day, or is it an investment? Why does the value of Bitcoin rise and fall so much, and will it ever stabilize? We cover all of these topics and much, much more. Finally, Dave offers some realistic expectations for what the future might look like with cryptocurrency. Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Good. Chris, how you doing?
Not too bad. Happy to have you here today. Exciting topic, cryptocurrency or digital currency. Is there a preferred way to talk about it?
Well, first, thanks for having me. And it's a good question to start with. Is there a difference between digital currency and cryptocurrency? Yes, I think there is. I don't think there's any really official designation or a dictionary distinction on the two terms, because this is all, of course, very new, however you look at it. And a lot of terms and a lot of ways of thinking about it are still being settled and open to interpretation to some degree. Digital currency, I think, would include just regular money that people are used to, yen, dollars, euros, whatever, being used digitally.
I see, like a Suica card.
Yeah, just like your Suica card, just like Line has a service, you can transfer money from one Line user to another and that kind of thing. I think all those things you could call digital currency, which basically is short for digital use of currency.
Right.
Whereas cryptocurrency, the crypto part is actually both important and not important. It's important in the sense that everything is cryptographically secure, which is a way of saying all the inputs and outputs and interactions are encoded so that they're kept somewhat private.
I see.
But, that part is largely invisible to the user.
I see.
Yeah.
So is what makes then cryptocurrency special and different from digital currency, which is attached to yen and dollars, is what makes it special that encryption?
Well, first, just to clarify, I think digital currency includes both cryptocurrency and regular. So I don't think you'd say digital currency for regular and then cryptocurrency separately. Everything can be done digitally.
Okay.
But within that, cryptocurrency, so the crypto part is definitely important. The ability to make sure that transactions are done in a somewhat private way is, of course, important to everybody. We don't want everything we buy to be made public, or if somebody could get on a computer and look up the right information to find out, your income and everything about what you spend and use. That would be no good. But really, the back end, what drives cryptocurrency, the blockchain technology that's involved, and its distributed nature, which isn't really related to the cryptography part, is equally, if not, is as much or more important. So somehow the name cryptocurrency stuck because there's a cryptographic component to it. But I don't know if that's the sole defining feature of what makes a cryptocurrency useful and important.
Okay. Well, that's a great segue into my next question.
Okay.
So what are some of those defining features? And just to confirm, I think most people listening to this will have heard of Bitcoin before.
Sure.
And just to confirm, Bitcoin is one type or one kind of cryptocurrency. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So Bitcoin is the most famous. It's also the oldest, and it's the one that started it all. So that's the one that is so common, it's almost synonymous with cryptocurrency, the same way that Kleenex is synonymous with tissues, or Xerox is Does anybody use Xeroxes anymore?
I don't think anyone
I don't
does.
think so. Anyone knows what that is.
Right.
Xeroxes are synonymous with photocopies, just to complete my thought, but nobody listening to this has probably ever used a photocopy.
Maybe a more recent example of this, someone says, I will Google this. What they actually mean is they're just going to search for it on the internet.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly. Yeah. So Bitcoin is kind of like that. Whether or not it's completely to that degree, I don't know, but it's certainly the most famous and the one that kicked it off. So just to name a few others, there's another branch of Bitcoin called Bitcoin Cash, which, as I've mentioned to Chris before, it's one that I like. There's another one called Ethereum, which is probably the next biggest one. There are some out there. There's one called Monero, which really focuses on making sure that everybody's interactions are completely private and secure, that no one can look into it. What's some other ones out there? Well, there's just a few others.
There's a few.
You know, I mean, you go down the list, and there's thousands and thousands of out there, most of which are probably never really going to amount to anything.
I see.
It's a big question as to whether or not they will, and this comes right to the question of what makes them important, what makes them significant.
Right, because in terms of currency, we also have yen, dollars, won, pesos.
Sure.
And that seems somewhat equivalent to all of the ones that you just mentioned.
Right.
So, yeah, what's the defining factor here?
So the defining factor is this thing called the blockchain, which is a technology that makes it all possible. And the blockchain, without maybe getting into too many details just now, it allows for lots of computers all over the world. Anybody, technically you or I even, could get a computer and attach it to this network of other computers, and they're all sharing data on this blockchain so that there is no one central computer that handles the transactions that everybody does. So, for example, if I send you money through a bank transfer or a futokomi, that will go through a bank. I log into my bank account or go to my bank. I say, send this money to Chris. The bank handles that through their computers. And we pay them for their service of using their computers.
Okay.
Whereas the blockchain is a system of computers that everybody can participate in to any degree they want. It's distributed all over the world. If I send you money through Bitcoin or one of these other cryptocurrencies, it'll go on to that request to send you some amount of money is just recorded on this blockchain. The data it's just like the internet itself in a way. The data just moves around through computer to computer to computer. No one person running any one of those computers has the ability to say anything about it. They can't refuse the transaction. They can't charge more for it, because if they try to do something funky, then the system will just use somebody else's computer and go through it. So there's kind of no middleman. There's really just computers between you and me. And unlike banks, computers don't care about profit. Or some of the people using the computers, they get little bits of money. That's something we could talk about later if you're interested in. But by and large, because it's just computers handling all these transactions and no banks or people or governments involved, the transactions are a little bit more private. The bank doesn't know who's involved. They're a little bit more secure because the data is stored everywhere. So even if one computer goes down, all the other computers will take it up. And it's more secure, it's more private. And there was one other thing about it. It's generally quicker too.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, if you notice a bank transfer it has to be done during banking business hours,
right?
Which I don't know why, because the banks are using computers. So, do their computers shut down at 5 o'clock? I don't know, right?
They need to take a break.
Yeah, their computers get tired. I don't understand that. But the blockchain is it's just like the internet. Just like you send an email and it gets there instantly, the blockchain will transfer that just as soon as it gets the data.
Worldwide as well.
And it's worldwide. It's an international currency, not backed by any particular government. It's entirely made by and for the people. Its success and its failures are entirely tied to how much people want to use it.
I see. And so this is a good lead-in. So its success lies in how much people want to use it and how much people want to trust it.
Yes.
Right? One of the reasons why most people trust yen or dollars is that it's backed by the government of that country.
Right.
And other governments recognize other countries' currencies.
Right.
And so how does this trust factor work? Is it for cryptocurrency to really become a sustainable way to use or a new type of money, do we need that 100% buy-in from all people?
A little bit, yeah. The interesting thing to note there is that even in the case of a government, there's still trust involved. And that trust can fall apart. If you look at Venezuela now, everybody's lost confidence in the currency and it's worth next to nothing. It's driving down to almost zero. Zimbabwe, not so long ago, their currency fell apart to the point where it doesn't exist anymore. People in Zimbabwe don't have a national currency. They use currencies from other countries, which goes to show you that even with a government support, you still need people to actually believe in a currency. It's one of the strange sort of philosophical topics you can get down into, a bit of a rabbit hole of discussion, but all money is essentially just built on our belief that this money is going to work. And a government kind of steps in to add in a little bit more of that trust. Really, a government isn't just coming in and saying, this is reality now, this is money, we all have to use it. It's more like a government comes in and says, we're a bigger, more stable entity than anyone else involved here. If you have us backing it, then that should give you a little bit more trust.
Right.
You know, it's like somebody with just a little bit more pull than you also getting involved in the conversation, and they can add a little bit more. But they can't add an infinite amount of trust. Eventually, I mean, what happened in Venezuela and Zimbabwe is people stopped trusting the government as much as they stopped trusting the currency.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing just sort of falls apart.
Right.
Yeah. So coming back to what cryptocurrencies do is, in a way, they're being a little bit more honest about the fact of, hey, look, we all have to buy into this. We all have to trust it. If we don't, it's going to fall apart. That is totally true. That's true for everybody. This is just sort of more taking the government's form of, I'm trying to think of the best word for this, the government's artificial inflation. No, inflation is sort of a weird word in the terms of currency because it might get confused with other things. The government's added
legitimacy
for this currency. Yeah.
So it seems like the use of cryptocurrencies, it's educating people on what currency is and why it's valuable, mainly in that everyone trusts in it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for me personally, it's been a topic that, I've looked into the ideas behind currencies and the politics of it and that kind of thing before. But when I started to get involved in cryptocurrency, I did have to take that step of really asking, what is this? And by looking at what is this, what is everything else? And you tend to sort of learn it. Now, in an ideal world, what all the advocates, the people supporting cryptocurrencies would like to see is a world in which people don't really have to ask that question, where Bitcoin and other currencies become so universal around the world that people just use it and they don't think about why. You shouldn't really have to worry about why your money is working. It should just work.
It should just work.
Yeah, but we're not quite at that stage yet because it's just, Bitcoin is only about 9 or 10 years old. A lot of other cryptocurrencies are out there are much, much younger. The whole thing is still very, this is a kind of thing that could be a very big step in terms of history and culture. 10 years is really nothing. This is, just starting out.
So you used to work for a Bitcoin-related company.
Yeah.
Right? Bitcoin Cash in particular. Not the Bitcoin currency, but the Bitcoin Cash currency.
Well, that was the... So Bitcoin Cash is a branch. It's a different version of the Bitcoin name that everybody else is very familiar with.
Okay.
At its heart, at their heart, cryptocurrencies are a form of software. Oh. And just like software, you can make different versions of it, you can upgrade it, you can do lots of things with it. So within the world of Bitcoin, there was some disagreement among some of the people who make the software for it about the best way forward. So this split, in a way, of ideas happened in the middle of 2017. I happened to be working at a Bitcoin company right at the time when the split happened. And the company, being a company that deals in Bitcoin, they pay the employees in Bitcoin. They gave me the option. They said, what would you like to be paid in? At the time, I chose Bitcoin Cash, and I still believe that Bitcoin Cash, of the two choices about how this currency should be run, I think that is the better choice.
At the time, did you have the option to be paid in yen, or it was either between the two?
No,
cryptocurrencies?
the company's basically operates in Bitcoin.
I
It's an
see.
international company and blah blah blah. So
I see.
yeah,
So how did that work? You lived in Japan. You were
yeah,
paid in a cryptocurrency.
yeah.
Uh, a lot of things that you pay for in Japan need to be paid for in yen. So
Sure,
can you
sure.
just talk about how that was?
Yeah, it's really not that big of a deal in a way because for right now, for example, right now, if you're just being paid in, so right now I'm doing work, for example, for some companies. I do writing for online magazines and whatnot, and they'll pay me like through PayPal.
Hmm.
And PayPal has its own electronic systems where you basically transfer money from a bank account to another bank account with PayPal as a go-between.
Okay.
And if you want, you can use cryptocurrencies in the exact same way. So, like you said, although there are places in Japan where you can use cryptocurrency just the same way you would use money, it's obviously not big enough to run your whole life on. In fact, there's a couple people online you can look around. Every now and again, somebody thinks it's an interesting project to see, can I live my whole life just on one cryptocurrency
Oh,
or
I see.
another, and they see, and you can but you
Hmm.
really got to push it, and it's not a very easy,
Right.
comfortable life. So I would like to lead a more easy and comfortable life. So what I did was I did buy and use cryptocurrency. I mean, partly I philosophically support it, so I want to see it in action. So I try and make a point of using it now and again to try and help get that ball rolling. But my landlord obviously does not want to take any Bitcoin. They
Right.
want yen.
Hmm.
And it's very simple. There are things called exchanges where I receive, when the Bitcoin is transferred to me, it's sent through the network to what I have an application that's called a wallet. And that's where I store the Bitcoin Cash that I received. I get it there, and then I take the amount that I want to convert to yen. And there's a couple ways I could do it. There are people who just meet in person and will buy coins for yen, Bitcoins for yen, or that kind
Oh,
of thing. Some
really?
people do that. Yeah, there are websites online. Um, I can't remember their names at the moment, but they're like sort of meeting forums where you can say, well, I'm in this town, I have this amount of Bitcoin to sell, or I want to buy this amount, and people link up that way, and then they arrange a time and place to meet, and that's usually the best way to do it in terms of cost because uh, just by going through individuals, there's no overheads or
There's zero
there's
cost
zero
involved.
costs involved. So you get a good exchange rate that's fair and blah, blah, blah. The more common way, which costs you more because there is overhead and service fees and whatnot, is you do it online with an exchange where you're kind of doing the same thing. It's just that the exchange online, they give you
They're creating convenience
they're creating
and
convenience.
security.
Yeah, they hold a big bunch of that cryptocurrency and allow people to buy and sell out of their holdings.
Right.
But because they've got to take the risk of holding a certain amount of Bitcoins in order to help everybody do their trades, yeah, they charge a little bit of money for this service. Not much. We're talking like a few hundred yen. It's about the same as doing any kind of bank transfer, a furikomi or whatever. So it's not a bad fee in any way. It's just that it does cost you that 200 yen that you wouldn't pay if you're meeting an individual.
I see.
But that's what I would do. They would transfer the money to me. I would say, well, I need this amount of yen this month. I would just go to the exchange, get that amount out, and there you go.
I see. Sounds easy.
It is that easy. Well, Japan is one of the most supportive, one of the countries that is the most supportive of cryptocurrencies, possibly in the world. Obviously, I don't live in every country, so I can't compare totally, but this is what I gather from, reading about it and seeing what's going on. Some countries are outright hostile to it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example right now, but there are countries that want to outlaw it or regulate it very heavily. There's some countries that outright ban the use of cryptocurrency inside their borders.
And do you think that's because they're fearful of what might have happened in Zimbabwe or Venezuela? If people start trusting this digital or this cryptocurrency, they'll trust the local currency less and therefore trust the government less? Is that part of the fear?
Yes, maybe. I don't know if I can speak to what the individual countries' fears are because I don't have any specific examples readily on hand right now. But yeah, in a way, what would happen is not necessarily the same thing that happened in Zimbabwe or Venezuela, because those currencies collapsed. And actually, Venezuela tried to make their own cryptocurrency. A lot of countries have done this.
Oh,
they try to make their own cryptocurrency, to try and do something to help recover from this crisis, this national crisis.
What did they call it? Like the Venezuela coin?
They called it the petro.
The petro?
Yeah, because it was backed by their oil, because Venezuela has a lot of oil that they export.
Okay.
And so it's backed by their, the amount of value that they're holding in their oil. They tied that to the petro, or the petro cryptocurrency in some way. So, I mean, this is something like when you're saying, I don't know if we want to get into the whole discussion about, value and what value is in a currency and whatnot. But anyways, the Venezuelan government thought that this would be a way of making their cryptocurrency not just, hey, we have this cryptocurrency and it's just here and please use it, but to say we're reserving a certain amount of our oil to back this currency, to say here's some value that it has. These amount of cryptocurrency petros, the coins we have, these represent this oil we're reserving for it. So it does actually represent something of value.
Right.
Didn't really work. Nobody bought into it.
Okay.
So, nobody likes the petro. Nobody likes the Venezuelan bolivar. I think I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But, a lot of countries are against cryptocurrencies because more out of a sense of control. So I don't know if they're really that afraid that that the whole country is going to suddenly start buying and selling all their daily groceries and stuff in currencies. But it's more that you get capital flight. So if you're in this country, which maybe doesn't give you the freedom to have investments outside of your country, or possibly as a way of avoiding tax or whatever, if you have this cryptocurrency, it's a way for people to buy a cryptocurrency and suddenly move it around on the internet without the government really being able to watch or control it. Right. So they worry about people kind of avoiding obligations at home and taking that away. But Japan is, like I said, it's been very, very progressive about it there. Yeah,
you mentioned this. So you said that your landlord doesn't accept cryptocurrency.
I haven't asked, to be fair.
Well, you never know.
Maybe I should, but yeah.
But in your daily life around Japan, are there stores, are there online shops that will accept cryptocurrency?
Yeah, more and more. I mean, a lot of little shops will have it, because one of the things that's kind of happened now is just in general, there's a move towards RFID chips, the little scanners like you would use your Suica to scan, at a cash register.
Yeah.
Or Line really wants to move people towards using QR codes to pay for things. So the company Line, what they really want to see is you go to a cash register and they just have one of those laser scanner things. You would hold up your phone and do that.
You hold up a wallet that's connected to a QR code.
Well, you would hold up, your Line app, which has,
I see.
Line points, which are tied. You can buy Line points with yen, so they're equivalent of yen, and da-da-da-da.
Oh,
it's almost in a way like they've got their own little Line currency. It's not backed by a blockchain, but it's very similar type of thinking. The reason they do that, I think, is because they don't particularly want to be tied to credit cards or phones that have RFID chips on, whatever. Everybody has a phone with a screen on it, so everybody can show a QR code. So that's sort of the most universal way.
I see. That makes sense.
Yeah. So as you see this kind of thing happening, like even as banks and companies like Line and convenience stores and everybody are all moving towards these digital ways of doing transactions, of buying and selling things, it's not that much of a leap then to just it's just really sort of a software change or an upgrade or something to be able to also accept cryptocurrencies, among other things, as well as say, you get point cards when you go to store, I don't know, you buy 10 things, you get a free one kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
People want to do that now with apps like stores like Muji and stuff. And Pico Camera, they all have apps now instead of the card.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, everybody's just kind of going online, and so it's just really, really easy now. Once all the stores have the digital scanners and the things, it becomes real easy to make just anything possible.
True, but so that's the hardware bit. I guess the harder thing to put in place to get these stores to accept the digital currency is the belief that it has value.
Yes, exactly.
Right, and I guess that falls on, if it's a larger company, the board of directors or the CEO, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Somewhere there's a group of old Japanese men sitting around green tea kind of humming and hawing about what the new cryptocurrency thing is.
Are there any large Japanese companies that have already made the leap and said, yep, we accept this, we trust in this?
So I just heard recently that one of the chains of convenience stores is actually going to start accepting cryptocurrency. I don't want to name names, but I think one of them is, and it's not so much because they're so into the idea of cryptocurrencies, but what you've got going on is there are actually banks in Japan are surprisingly kind of into cryptocurrency as well. The main one, there's a bank called SBI Holdings, which the SB and SBI stands for SoftBank, which everybody will know is the phone company, the mobile phone company. But I think they created this SBI Holdings bank as a separate division, and then it became big on its own, and I don't know if it actually still is the same company or not. Anyways, they're one of the larger online internet banking, one of the largest online internet banks in Japan. And they're really big into cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin Cash is one of the ones they really like. They have associations with convenience stores and whatever, like you go into the convenience stores, the ATMs, they, what banks they support is all a negotiation between.
Yeah, there's a contract behind
There's contracts. Yeah, these people all have relationships with each other, and far more complicated than I'm sure you or I will ever really know and appreciate. So a big giant like SBI Holdings comes along and talks to somebody like Lawson, I don't know who, but somebody, and says, hey, we're giving you all these banking services. Another one of the banking services we want to be able to do is this. Will you help us out? And I'm sure there's some kind of give and take, whatever. But yeah, again, because like we were just talking about, the hardware is already there and stuff. It's not that big of a leap for Lawson. Lawson says we like the relationship with SBI Holdings, so it starts to work out.
And they have tens of thousands of locations.
They have tens of thousands
that now accept this currency.
Yeah. I don't think it's actually launched yet, but
right. But that's kind of how it would work.
That's kind of how it's going on, yeah. And it seems to be just coming down the wire. It's just sort of a matter of time before these things. I was in just a store actually recently. It's just a place that sells like reasonably healthy takeout chicken lunches things, and they had a little scanner thing on their counter beside the cash register, and had a little sticker there that just kind of, has little stickers there for Suica and credit cards and Eddie,
all
and
of those,
all these things, and also Bitcoin and all the, like, it just had everything.
Wow.
And it had everything because they had all the hardware in place, and they put one of these things in, and then somebody comes into the store one day and says, "Oh, I see you've got that. Well, do you mind adding our currency?" And it's kind of sure, as long as it's easy, right? Well, I asked the guy, I talked to him, I said, "Oh, has anybody actually used Bitcoin?" He's like, No, nobody's used it. They can take it and just, but he doesn't care either, right? Like one day maybe somebody will,
right?
Maybe they won't. Either way, it didn't really cost him anything to set it up.
No.
So,
and either way, he's set up for success in the future if it
goes that way. Yeah. So that's kind of, I think, how the adoption is going to grow when there's very low barriers to entry. No reason to resist it is kind of how it will grow.
I see.
Yeah.
Speaking of growing, a lot of people talk about cryptocurrency as an investment, and you hear stories about people that made a lot of money on it.
Yeah.
Can you talk briefly about, is cryptocurrency an investment or is it a currency?
Yeah.
Or both?
Okay. So,
maybe it's not a quick answer.
Yeah, I don't know if I can. Well, actually, no. I think we can separate it out because some cryptocurrencies are an investment. So what some people realized was that this whole blockchain thing can be used so that instead of buying, so people talk about tokens, token being just one unit of whatever cryptocurrency you have. People realize that these tokens could not just be used as digital coins in a sense, but also as stocks. So I have a company. Again, blockchain software is all open source and anybody can make one and whatever. So I've got a company and I want to issue stocks, but I don't want to go into the stock exchange because that requires so much. You've got to jump through all these hoops and paperwork and legal requirements and all this stuff. What if I just sold a bunch of these tokens instead and got investment that way? As that kind of thing started to happen, the government started to get involved, and there had to be some assurances. Okay, if somebody buys a token in this company, there has to be some legal way for them to actually, prove that this is a meaningful ownership of the company. You can't just sort of like sell you a token and be like, well,
yeah.
Good luck with that,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. Yeah. So some are used as stocks, and as stocks, they are used as just purely an investment. The one I like, Bitcoin Cash, is trying to be just a currency. And there's actually a legal definition. I think it's called the Howard. I'm not remember. There's a legal precedent which there's kind of certain criteria. You can say this is something that's a security or a stock, or it's a currency.
I see.
And you separate those two out. So just for the moment, putting aside the ones that are specifically designed to be stocks in a company, we've got the currency ones. Now, the currency ones, their value goes up and down. And people do this with regular currency as well. I have a friend that she buys sometimes US dollars and will wait a little bit until the rate of exchange between the two changes, and then she'll move the dollars back into yen, hopefully for a little bit of profit. Now, the thing is, because you're dealing with super stable currencies like the yen and the dollar, the amount of variance, goes up or down by, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. I don't know, right? Maybe into crazy, and depending how long term, maybe 10% or something, right? When you're buying and selling Bitcoin, it's the exact same thing. The value of Bitcoin is going up and down relative to the currency you're buying it from. But the thing is, because it's so much less stable than other currencies, that variance is so much higher. So for an example of the variance, Bitcoin was worth about 200,000, one Bitcoin was worth about 200,000 yen in and around July of 2017.
Okay.
And then it was worth 2 million yen in December. So in just like a 5-6 month period, it went up 10 times.
Shot up in value.
It shot up in value 10 times. So if you'd bought it in August of 2017 and sold it in December of 2017, if you bought $1,000 worth, you would now have $10,000 in your hand.
Right.
Pretty good investment.
Right.
Right. And
of course, then the fear is also if it can shoot up as quickly, it might shoot down as quickly.
Yeah.
So my question,
which is exactly what it did, by the way.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah. In
Okay.
January, the market tanked. So it didn't go down as down to, like, right now. I think the value is around 500,000 yen, 600,000 yen, something like that. So if you'd bought it in summer of 2017, you're still ahead. It's still about double of what you put in. But when you watch the trend, watching it go down from 2 million yen down to 600,000, you see that slope going downwards. You've got to ask yourself, is it going to keep doing that? When do I get out? Or maybe it'll turn back around. I mean, well, this is where the game is played and people are buying and selling. This is where people start treating it like an investment. And because the infrastructure is not really there, like we were saying, to just go around and use it at stores, a lot of people still tend to think about it only in terms of, if I buy it at this amount of yen or dollars and take it out much of this amount of yen or dollars, and they kind of treat it almost like a digital gold, something you just sort of invest in for making money. Right. I and a few other people who would like to see it become an actual legitimate currency tend to look down on that a little bit. I understand it. You can't blame people when they see an opportunity to make money to want to make money. I'm certainly happy if it goes up. Absolutely. But that can't be the end of it. I mean, the weird irony is if this thing only exists for us to buy and sell for other currencies, then it has no meaning.
As a currency.
Yeah, it's not a currency. Then does it have any value? If its only value is to have value, it has no value.
Right.
It's a weird sort of paradoxical irony of it, but that's a situation when people are only thinking about it in terms of buying and selling it. If you can say this Bitcoin is worth, like, if I can say this amount of Bitcoin is worth one coffee, it has a definite real world value that I can pin it to and say this is how much it should be worth to, buy into and get out of and do whatever, right? Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. I think the yeah, in very simplistic terms, I think that's essentially what it is. When everybody can just sort of see it as something like when you just almost like a no-brainer, just assume, oh, I've got some Bitcoin, and oh, I'm out of milk at home, and I just got to go to the store and get some, and that you can just take your Bitcoin app, go down to the store and buy some milk with it. When you just have that level of confidence in it, the pricing is almost certainly to level out, right?
Got it. I know these things are impossible to predict, but how far away are we from that point, do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously nobody can say when or if for sure it will happen. I don't think really the danger is so much that everyone is just going to one day go, Bitcoin's stupid and just walk away. The danger is more likely that somebody might come along with a slightly better working version of Bitcoin, another cryptocurrency that is, for whatever reason, just has some better aspect to it. And then that will play. I think the idea of cryptocurrencies in general is here to stay. I don't think anyone really denies that this is a factor. But there's lots of details within that could change and affect how this all grows. Obviously it's not going to happen tomorrow. I don't think it's going to take 100 years. So, to get to that point when you can just go down to the store and it's obviously country by country that's going to be different. I think Japan will be a little bit earlier on the curve than others. I think we're in the range of sort of a 5, 10, maybe 20-year horizon, something along those kind of lines.
I see. So for the junior high school or high school students that are listening to this, by the time they graduate college, they could reasonably expect cryptocurrency to be playing a larger role in their lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, again, it might not be the form we really understand it now. Another thing that could happen, for example, is maybe cryptocurrency as a daily spending thing it turns out not really to be
the best use for it. Right. I think I understand. So as the technology develops and as I mean, with any technology, humans will use it in whatever
Crazy
way they
ways.
can innovate.
Well, if I could take a little analogy that people might be sort of amused with that I think might sort of help explain it.
Sure.
I mean, I remember when I was, of the age of people probably listening now, sort of in high school and whatever. And at that time, we had cell phones and we had digital cameras, right? And I remember talking with my friend who was really into photography. And he thought digital, because at the time the digital pictures weren't quite that good.
No, yeah.
And he just thought, there's no way that these things are ever going to get as good as like a real photo, the
DSLR,
resolution.
yeah.
And I was like, no, eventually digital is just going to, it's just a matter of degree. It's just going to get better and better and better. And eventually, chemical photography is just going to get wiped out. Everything's going to be digital. Turns out that was true.
Yep.
Right? And then, so my friend not so long ago, he asked me, he said, so Dave, you were right about that, so what else is going on?
What else is going on, yeah.
And I was like, it's interesting. I was right about that, but I had no idea at the time that, even though we had cell phones in our hands and even though we had digital cameras, I had no idea those were going to become the same thing.
Right.
Like now, we use the word phone and don't really use our phone for phoning people that much. We text. Text is another thing. Nobody imagined that anyone would ever want to replace calling up someone and just talking with texting, because in a lot of ways it's more inconvenient to sit there typing with your hands than just speaking. And yet now I'm certainly, I don't think I'm alone in this. I get weirded out when people phone me. It must be some sort of disaster.
I'm nervous. Yeah, I feel like it's disaster.
Something's
there's an emergency.
Wrong's going on. Yeah. So even though we had at the time we were using texting on computers and there was things called Usenet and whatever, which is really dating me, but there were all these technologies at the time that you would look at and go, well, yeah, we knew the future was there. We knew people were going to use more cell phones. We knew digital photography was going to be a thing. We knew, email and text messaging, there was something to it. But nobody knew that we were going to stop calling each other and start texting. Nobody knew your digital camera was going to be on your phone. Nobody knew that you were going to stop using your phone as a phone and just use it to look up cats on the internet and things like that.
Right.
So so which is all just a way of saying it's possible to kind of know which way the future is going without knowing what it's going to be. And that's where we're at with cryptocurrency. It's definitely here. It's definitely technology that everyone's excited about. It definitely has a very, very concrete use. But in 10 years, when the listeners of this are going to be graduating, it's going to be there. It's going to be a thing. I can't tell you exactly what you're going to be doing with it.
That is exciting.
But it's fascinating. Yeah. It's a real opportunity. So, a lot of the kids, I think, maybe if they're going into university now, I'm sure there are courses now about blockchain technology. Certainly if you get into any kind of programming, computer science, that will be one direction to go in, which would be immensely profitable in the future. There is definitely going to be jobs and work to do that. But there's also going to be social changes and stuff because of it. So who knows what it's going to be, but it's definitely going to be fun.
That's great. For kids entering college, perhaps those courses will become available to them. For those that just want to do extra reading on the side and learn more about cryptocurrency, you work as a journalist. You read about this stuff all day long.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are credible sites and sites that don't give the best information. Do you have any go-to places where you get your information about this stuff?
I'm really sorry to say that I wish I could recommend better sites because I had a really good opportunity because I was working at this company. I knew nothing when I started at this company, but it was a great opportunity because I was just doing design type stuff and whatever, and I would just go in every day and be like, because they were asking me, can you do a graph about this service or a thing about this? And I'm like, well, what is this? I don't know what this thing you're asking me to make a graph of. And I was just able to ask people who were there working in the business all the time to say, well, what is this and what is that and how does that work? And they were really great guys. They would pull out whiteboards and wanted to explain it to me and da-da-da-da. So unfortunately, because I didn't have the experience myself of just sort of going out on the net, I don't have that depth of knowledge about where the great resources are.
I see.
Here's what I can tell you, though. Obviously, you can go onto Google, type in blockchain tutorial, type in cryptocurrency fundamentals, basics, how to learn. You know what I mean? If you type in all these keywords, you're going to get a lot of stuff out there. Mm-hmm. One of the problems I see is a lot of this information is written by very technical people who are not very good at explaining things.
Yeah.
It is a rampant problem in the community, one that I'm sort of trying to solve by just doing the writing that I do, which tries to really sort of simplify it. Like whenever I'm writing anything, I try and think, what if this person has pretty much never heard of anything about this? How would I try and reach them, right?
Yeah.
That is not apparently the standpoint a lot of other people writing on the topic take, So it is a little bit hard to find. But it's out there. People make also YouTube videos and stuff explaining it to varying degrees of success. So I think, for somebody who wants to go out and learn more and find out, you just got to go out and kind of swim in those waters a little bit, poke around. And the thing is, if you come across a site a video or a podcast or anything where it's trying to explain it to you and you're not getting it, move on. There's somebody else out there with a different and possibly better explanation. It's not because it's so complicated that you can't understand it. The basic concept is pretty simple and it's there, but a lot of people are really bad at explaining it. So you don't just sort of look at one website and be like, this seems complicated and I don't know if I'll ever get it. No. You can get it. It's definitely accessible information. It's just that the person you were reading right now did a really bad job of explaining it to you. You can't figure this out. You just got it. Just keep moving on. Every time you read something you're bored by it, just, okay, screw that guy, move on. Find another thing, read that.
Right. Because it's worth doing so because the fact is this will be a part of our lives in the future.
I think so, yeah. I think there's going to be sort of two categories of people. The type of people who are using it without really knowing because it has become ubiquitous, just like money. You don't really sit around thinking about how does this dollar bill work? You don't really think like that. You just use it.
Nor do most people know how the internet works.
And they use it, exactly. Or their car. They don't know how an engine works, that kind of thing. So there'll be a category of people for whom that's true. And then there'll also be another category of people who will be working and living and breathing this stuff. And it's, it's just like sort of back in the 80s or 90s, there was no internet, but there was this huge boom in possible internet work coming. That's kind of what's happening here.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be excited to sit down with you in 5 years' time and see how all of this has progressed.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Dave, thanks for stopping by.
No, thanks for having me, Chris. Really appreciate it.
All right, and there you have it. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. I'd love to hear from you, so please send your comments, thoughts, or questions, or just say hi at hello@inspiretokyo.com. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please share it with a friend. We are always looking for new listeners. And be sure to subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcasts. See you next time.